We're grateful. Thank you, everybody, Facebook and whoever's going to be watching us live this week. What I know is that we have a message in unity. I happen to be one of the vehicles that gets it out there. I'm grateful. And so we have people who watch from all over and donations that come from all over as well. And so we're grateful for all of that. There's a story that I want to start with today about a samurai who went to see a monk. And you know, samurais are big people, more fluffy than I am even. And they've got big voices, at least this is how the story goes. And so he walked up into the presence of the monk, who was a little slight in stature and probably wearing brown or orange of some color. And he, in his very big voice, the samurai says, "Monk, I've come here so you can teach me about heaven and hell." In this big voice, and the monk, who's very quiet, says, "I'm not going to teach you anything." And he's got a look of disdain on his face. He said, "You're dirty, you smell, your blade is rusty, you're a disgrace to the samurai class of people. Get out of my sight, I don't want to see you." Well, I know how my Irish would get up, right? Well, so he didn't have an Irish because he was a samurai, but he was furious. And he shook, and his face got all red, and he was speechless with rage, and he makes a stance, and he's going to get his sword out, and he pulls it as if he's going to do something with it above his head. Imagine, I'm sure you've all been there at some point, with or without a sword, right? And he thinks, "I'm just going to slay this monk. I'm just going to slay him." And the monk says, "That's hell." And the samurai puts down his sword, puts it back in its case. And he's just full with compassion and surrender to this man, this little man, as the words say, of stature, little man, who's offering to almost give his life. Because remember, the samurai's big and can do lots of things and has a sword. Yes? And he's filled with gratitude that he would teach him what hell felt like. And so he said to the monk, ever so gracefully, "Thank you." And the monk said, "This is heaven." So we get to decide how we're going to deal with conflict when it comes into our life. Do we see a situation and make it more than what it needs? The monk could have been afraid. I had a situation last week that I was afraid. I'm not a little person. I don't get afraid. I know how to fight. As a middle child, we learn those skills early on. And I had a moment when my mind made me afraid. And so, of course, I reach out and call someone who says, "Hey, can you help me with this?" And we process it. So you might say, why does she continue to talk every week about our thoughts? Because our thoughts are what are occurring between our two ears. You also know, I've said this before, that these are our temples. Where does God reside? Depends, right? God's everywhere in me. And yet, sometimes I need more God between my temples because I've got a whole bunch of other stuff going on, right? I'm listening to news. I've listened to somebody else's opinion. I've read something. So we're here to remember no one's opinion of you matters, right? It's none of your business. That we grow into that as we get older, right? Because we think that early on in our life. So the emphasis on thought is because thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. That's our third unity principle. What we think about manifests, right? You've heard, I think it was in the 70s, garbage in, out, whatever all of those sayings are all about. But our relationship is with the divine within us that is of God. That I know. That's what I witnessed on Monday when I was with Penny. And as she was she didn't even know she was doing ministry work, to all of the nurses who, of course, are a little, in the cancer ward, they're a little bit nervous about, why is this person happy and this one over here? We had a whiner next to us. And since I don't know her name, and we don't have to tell you where we were, and we just were like, wow, what a difference experience this person next to us was having than Penny was having with me and with the nurses. Court Justice Oliver Wendell Jr. said that a mind that is stretched can never go back to its old dimensions. Scripture might be, you can't put new wine in old wineskins, right? Isn't it funny how that's a new thought? I'm not sure that it's a new thought. However, it's the truth. Once we know something, we do better, right? Maya Angelou says that. Once we know better, we do better. And so once we have a little bit of an awakening, it's hard to go back into those old ways, or we find ourselves addressing them sooner. So have you guys ever had a mind-blowing experience that, especially spiritually, that took you aback, and that allowed you never to go back? Anybody? Yeah, probably like me, the first time you went into a Unity church. So for me, it was 33 years ago. I was a child. And the minister said that God was not a man, which was new for me as a Catholic girl, really not a person at all, not in the sky above the clouds, judging me. And I remember thinking, what? Who is this guy? And it was a male minister who was speaking. So, I asked him afterwards, but that's what I heard. And then it was like, I want to believe that. So I'm not going to believe any longer what I had been brought up to believe. And so that's the classes, and then you come to church and you do everything that you do to have the shift in your consciousness. God is energy. I know Theta has told that to you all a million times in her many years here. We are energy. That's why we matter. Get it? My friend Raj used to work at NASA, down at the Cape, and so we've been talking about energy and things like that. So the creative force behind life is God, also within us as well, and the essence of love. I loved that yesterday when we saw Ed, that he said, well, so you're going to talk about the divine essence. He was not slacking in his knowing the truth of who he was, with wires and sitting in the bed and all of that, right? Because he knows the truth of him. And then that's all that Jim and I had to remind ourselves of when we were there with him. So it was a peaceful 4.5-minute visit, because that's how long we stay, especially in ICU. So I hope every time you come to a class, every Sunday when you come here, you leave a little bit with your mind blown. Like, I don't know what the heck she was talking about. And maybe you'll call me, maybe you'll ask somebody else. But maybe just that all of the old curmudgeony stuff inside of you has been shaken up a little bit. And to know what joy can look like going through cancer treatment. And you think of Penny, right? Or you think of Lois walking without a walker, right? So there's ways of looking and seeing and assimilating that. And so for me, when people say, but you haven't been through this. No, I have not been through cancer. I think I've been through enough other stuff in life to be able to assimilate what it might be that we would consider a challenging time, right? And nobody's keeping score, thank God. So how powerful is it that we can wrap our minds around this concept that we create our own reality? Everybody breathe. What? I would never want to have lost my job. How can you say I'd want me to hurt? How could you say that you want my back to hurt? How could you say I wanted cancer? That's not what I said. What I said is we create our own reality. We have bodies that have disease in them, that either gets engaged or doesn't get engaged, right? And so what we are responsible for is the attitude. That's our responsibility. How will we deal with what comes our way? So we were talking, Ty and I, before the service. Tomorrow is his birthday, all day. Starts at midnight tonight. Yes, he'll be in school, but there's hours before and after where he could have a whole celebration of his big day. And then we talked about maybe it's a birthday week. And his dad said, yeah, and then we have a birthday month, right? Because his dad's birthday is also this month. So we get to shift our attitude and figure out how it is we're going to deal with what comes our way. Charles Fillmore in Atom Smashing Power of the Mind, a light read. It will be available as part of our lending library that's going to be launched on the 24th, so stay tuned. He says, to be ignorant of mind and its laws is to be a child playing with fire, or a man manipulating powerful chemicals without knowing their relation to one another. This is universally true, he says, and all who are not learning about mind are in like danger, because all are dealing with the great cause from which springs forth all the conditions that appear in the lives of us. Do you get it? If I'm thinking, oh, it's freezing out, and I have on my only pair of closed-toed shoes, I had to find them today and dust them off, I could have the whole day be ruined. Or otherwise, put on your socks, get a muffler or a scarf, or put on a jacket, and know that the sun's still going to be shining. That's just a simple way of looking. That if I think it's going to stink, it's probably going to smell, right? So Fillmore says, mind is the one reservoir from which we draw all that we make up into our world. That's where our creativity comes in. That's why I hope you all have a box of crayons. And if you don't, maybe that's what you'll be getting from us for Christmas. How are you coloring your world? Get the 64 pack because it has many shades of everything. Right? He says, so all that we make up into our world, and it is through the laws of mind that we form our lives. We create our own reality. And that means how it is that we deal with what it is that shows up in our life. So I was telling Roz as she was driving, I texted her, I said, there's a lot of police out this morning, so that way that she's not speeding going through the lights, right? So she could have sped and she might have still gotten a ticket, right? Not my issue, but I thought me just give a heads up on that, and it's always makes me mindful when I see someone pulled over on the side of the road. Oh, how fast am I going? Am I paying attention? That's how I see police people in my life, as are you staying present? Penny talked about that. This is the only moment we have. Eckhart Tolle's book is called The Power of Now. So Fillmore says that the reason that sometimes we don't understand this is because we don't know the truth. Emily Cady, who was the teacher of the teachers, Dr. Emily Cady, said, we have thought that outside things controlled us, when all the time we have had within, which could have changed everything and given us freedom from bondage. Now, I would have added a few words. We have had that within us, but not my job to change her words that were written back in the early 1900s. Let me read it again. We have the thought that outside things control us, when all the time we have had within that which would have changed everything and given us freedom from bondage. Again, an inside job as to how it is we're going to respond or react to what's happening outside of us. Scripture tells us in John chapter 8, verse 32, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Well, a lot of the times what you hear is, the truth will set you free. Okay, well, what's the truth? Because you have to know it, which means you're coming to classes, you're studying at home, you're doing whatever, there's virtual webinars and all of those things. But the process is getting it from our head into our heart so that we can live it. We can live it. She goes on to say, Katie, we automatically attract to ourselves just what we, in parentheses, think we are. And we may set it down that wherever we are, however intolerable the situation may be, we are just where we belong. So when something happens in my life that's a little less than what I want it to be, I go, oh, This is where I'm supposed to be. Now somebody help me because I can't see it, right? And that somebody is usually God, or I call a friend. So is it true? Is this just a cold world, or is it a deep, profound truth? When we find ourselves in situations that maybe we don't want to be in, and yet, wait a minute, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And what I know time after time is I'm supposed to be in Penny's life when she gets the news about the cancer. Because I told you the day she said to me, oh, I have cancer. I said, no, you don't. Your body has cancer. Because the truth of Penny can't be touched by anything less than love. Now, she's a new truth student. She's not around as long as some of you all. But we knew the relationship that we had with each other. I won't speak to all of you that way. I meet you where you are. And I'll tell you, that's what changed her lives. Remember, she said, ask her how she's healing, not how she's feeling. So we get to understand, Penny and I have talked about this as well, that every situation creates more opportunity to have more experiences with God. That's how I live my life. And I know it drives my family and some of my friends crazy. Like, really? Is God that important? Yeah. It's helped me be who I am. It's helped me get through all and everything that I've gone through up till this 62nd birthday that's coming up. So if we know that God's at the center of everything, then everything's a blessing. Everybody breathe. Right? Everything is a blessing. So that's why we call them a blessin, B-L-E-S-S-O-N. Sometimes it takes a while to get there, right? So a child wants to find define gravity as God at the center of the earth who keeps people right side up when the world is upside down. I think you might have said that. Yeah? Or maybe it was Natalie. But it makes sense, right? If we have a go-to place, not person, because God, there's nothing human about God, and we've talked about this. It's, we make God in our image, and that's not what you're learning here at Unity. God is God, let God be God, and let you be you and me be me, right? And have the attributes of God that come out and are part of you. So God is changeless good. Changeless is the key word there. Always and in always present. So that means then that peace and harmony and love and light and abundance are also always present. How do we know? Because God is present. Those words are all interchangeable. So that means when we get a moment that we have to walk through, guess what's walking with you? Joy and light and peace and harmony. Sometimes, though, the attitude is not of that, which is what Penny was talking about earlier. So then we have to get rid of all that ucky stuff and get to the truth and find the joy. So when it's hard to take the steps, Fillmore says, just realize that it's a facade, that the ego is pushing forward, right? Because the ego has its own agenda. And so then that's when you might say, Holy Spirit, have your way with me, or something, if that's how you talk to God. Or you could just say, all right, what is it that I'm supposed to be learning here? What is the experience that's supposed to be bringing me closer to God? Barbara Marx Hubbard, who made her transition earlier this year, was a futurist and a little thing and quite feisty, and I got to work with her at Overland Park as well as in Santa Barbara when I served there. And she spoke always of challenges, or what we might call problems, as evolutionary drivers. And she said that the crisis precedes transformation. We are standing on the threshold of all that can be. So every time something goes wrong, quote unquote, in my life, I think, gosh, what's going to happen? Something else is coming. Something else is coming. So there's a story that illustrates that. There's a dad who had 3 children, and he had a business that he was going to leave to one of the kids. So he gave him a challenge. He said, whoever can fill up this warehouse top to bottom, left to right, every single area, to be the fullest, you will inherit the business and all of my money. So the oldest child goes out and buys sand. Pretty inexpensive way to do it. Maybe he went down to the beach, I'm not sure. But he filled it to the heights and the rafters and out. And the dad was thinking, he might be inheriting the business. So of course the second child won't be undone and fills it with foam peanuts. You know those kinds you get in packages that you can't do anything with? Top to bottom, left to right, full. Less expensive than sand. The dad's like, maybe he's going to inherit. Well, the third one happened to be a girl. I'm just making that up. And invited the dad into the warehouse and lit one candle. What happens when we light a candle in a room? It made the whole room brighter. Guess who inherited the business? Girl power. Remembering the light. So our job in our world is to remember that we have a light switch even. Have your friends help you if you need to raise that dimmer switch up a bit. And realize, as we learn on Thursday, for those of you who don't come to Course of Miracles, you might want to, nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. And therein lies the peace of God. So the question is, are you awake and are you okay with being full of awe at whatever it is that's happening? Are you aware you're always choosing in each moment heaven or hell? Those are the questions. So close your outer eyes as we go into a time of meditation. Penny will accompany us on the piano. And take a moment and concentrate on your breathing. We use our breath as a tool to take us ever deeper within, where each of us meets the God of our own understanding. Whatever that is. So let's breathe into this now moment, knowing that it's a gift, and that's why it's called the present. And say thank you to ourselves. Thank you. Thank you for your willingness to come to something like a Unity Church service. For Norm, who's never seen this piano, to step up and play. For Penny to take a moment and tell you what a difference you've made in her healing journey. For the awareness that Ty's birthday is a full 24 hours and school won't be such a big deal. Grateful for the awareness that your presence in our community matters, physically and spiritually. Aware that as we hold all of those who are having a health opportunity, that it is our positive mind and our thoughts of healing presence that emanate out and touch them wherever they are, locally, in the world. And the wonder that when we heard that Ed was in a coma, that Jim and I and Chris and Donna went into prayer to say, okay, we need you around a little while longer, please. And the awe and the God bumps of walking in and having his eyes be open. Blessing us with another day of his brilliance and magnificence of knowing the essence that is of us is divine. And I know that for each of you. For all who are watching us online and all who might watch us later on in the week, we hold that in the forefront of our thoughts. Each of us divine, born in the image and after the likeness of God. Changeless God. And so as we go into time of silence and gratitude, we can just say thank you again. That's always the best prayer that can be said. And we go into the silence saying thank you. Thank you. We are grateful. As we bring our attention back to this time and this place and these sacred and holy grounds, I invite us to recite together, it's up on our screen, and for those of you at home, our love offering blessing. Think for a moment, what was the value of being here today? How moved was I by Penny's song or the words that Reverend Therese spoke? And so our love offering blessing together, please. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. We are grateful. We turn off the camera as we prepare. Penny starts playing our I Am